that point, and then it's kind of a question of really building from there.
Yeah.
We've implemented a lot of the suggestions from the previous group and fleshed out some content, and it's really where do we go from here now?
Yeah, exactly. And thank you for that, Paul. That's helpful. So I just click the record button. So if somebody's coming in late, not able to be here, I can post this up and then people can see it if they care to do so. And also helpful for us too, just to circle back and see some of the things. So lots of familiar faces in this virtual room. But if you haven't met me before, I'm working with Publivate. My name is Adam, and essentially what we're doing is we're holding hands with the D&D team to go out and create and launch that D&D site, or the digital built D&D site. And lots of work goes into that, and well, on the surface, it seems quite simple. For us diving into it, there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, and not just on our part, but also managing and getting content. So when we all met as a group about a month ago or a month and a half ago, we had some really good discussions and some great things that came out of that meeting, just about what the site should be and what it should not be. And we've taken some of that information, like Paul said, and implemented that. So what we're going to do today, really want to do two things. Is first of all, show you what we did do and what content we did put in there. For anyone that wants to take a deeper dive into that, I can send the link out to the development site. Obviously, this is a dev site, so it's not like it's live or out to the public. But if you want to poke around, you're absolutely free to do that. So that's the first half, showing you what we've done. And the second half of the meeting, which is really, I think, where there'll be a lot of stuff, or I'm hoping that there will be, is we want to make sure we're hitting the nail on the head for two of the sections or two of the pages on the site that we haven't developed content for. And we did take some time and speak to that on our last meeting, but want to just drive that forward a bit and just get a feeling from the group of what those pages will serve to do, and then also what the content should be, so that gives us a much clearer picture moving out of this meeting in terms of what do we need to do and what's the content that we need to build out on that. So I will share my screen. Please let me know if it works or does not work. Then that way you can take a look, and I will run you through what we've done. So I will share that here. So can everyone see my screen? I hope. Yes. Okay. I'm getting some nods. So that is fantastic. So the last time we did a pass through this, it was Latin or Pig Latin or whatever. The content was not real. So what we have done over the past few weeks, with the help of various players and people, is we've populated two of the pages, one of which is the home page and the other is the learn page. So some of the content that you will see in here, or the vast majority on these pages, is probably about 90% of the way there. There are still some tweaks to make, so it's not 100% final. But I'll run you through it, and if you see anything that doesn't resonate, or you just think maybe going in a different direction would make sense, let us know. It's not 100% finalized, but this is really where we've taken it and we think it makes sense. So on the home page here, like we said, we have populated the information, and if you're not going to go and read every word, that's fine. I can send a link afterwards. But more or less putting in a general introduction to what the site is, what digital built D&D is, and just a high level overview. So that's really the first section. The second portion here is framing the apps and services section. So we have an individual tab here that takes you to a different page, but this section here very quickly speaks to that, is just something to whet your appetite, to give you that information to go and use that. That's the second portion, very straightforward. We have built out, and we explained this last time, just an interactive project delivery tool, which today we won't take the time and go through that tool, but again, just populating it, making it so that if somebody's on the homepage, they have enough information to make decisions on what they want to do on the site itself or where they want to go. And we have done some revamping or retooling of what is in the bottom section of this page, or the last roughly quarter of the page, which is the partnerships. So we have two different partnerships. We did include the MCE partnership. We have a link to their website. And as we had before, we do have a link to the DBGC website as well. So the homepage is relatively simple, I think, as it should be, but it lays the ground or the framework for what the site should be. Before I move off of here, any questions, anything, any comments, concerns, criticisms, etc., or praise too? You're welcome to do that.
Yeah. So the link for MCE, that only works for people who are on the web at D1, right?
Yeah, I think the intention, this would be a DWAN based page, although we would have some links into external. I mean, we haven't, I guess a lot of people here may not be too familiar with the Digital Belt Government of Canada that we're going to be doing, but that's, you know, there will be a kind of an exterior site hosting, you know, data standards and procedures, things like that, that's what we would be linking to. But the primary focus for this would be more internal DND. So it would be sitting.
That's internal DND, okay.
Yeah, so sitting available on the DWAN.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to point out as well, I know this is something that was coming out of the last meeting that we had, which was incredibly important, and I think I'm forgetting who said it, but I think it was sort of a unanimous thing. There needs to be a search function, and we have incorporated that search function here. So that exists, that works, so that is now there. So just wanted to point that out as well.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
Good. Okay, so I'll move over to the Learn page. As you can see, like we said, it is not 100% done. You know, we are not keeping
There's
this
still
here.
Latin there.
It's still exactly, but I
Right.
hope that most of the site is coming together in a way that, you know, it does start to take shape and make sense. This is where we've actually put in a bulk of the time and work. And in the last meeting, one of the big things that we took out of that was the Learn page as we had it before, as we had it a couple months ago, didn't do much for actually teaching or learning. So we actually did a lot of revamping on it, and just approached it from the standpoint of, if somebody is coming to the Digital Built D&D site, how can we take them from knowing absolutely nothing or incredibly little and getting them up to speed on a very basic level? And that's what we've attempted to do. So as you'll see, I mean, the first thing is we've really put the mission statement, which is an important first step, and really explaining what D&D or Digital Built D&D is going out to solve. So what challenges there are, what the status quo is. So that was the overall thinking and idea behind the new Learn page, which is catering to people, like I said, that don't have a really great idea or understanding. Because if you already have an understanding, then you're not going to go to the Learn page, right? You'll perhaps go to the apps and services page or the data management page. So we're starting off here, and like I said, the content's about 90% of the way there in terms of what is written. But if there's feedback, even cut me off. Happy to hear it, no problem. Okay. So starting off here at the top, we've got really high level mission statement. Why are we here? What's the point? And the second element here is the status quo. So framing what the problem is. So we're going a bit deeper and trying to really educate people that are on here on really what a lot of the challenges are that we're bumping into and why we exist. So that's the second portion. For anyone that wants to take this information and is intrigued enough by this, then we do have a Learn More section, which is a substantially deeper dive. So we still have to implement the content in here, still working on that. But that is written. It's just a question of implementing that in there. So that's what that section is for. We had done a graphic up. This was on, I believe, the homepage last time we'd spoken, but we've moved that over, as people said, and put this into the Learn page. So understanding common data practices to really show the difference between with common data practices and without. So it's able to frame that nicely. So that moved over to this page. The content within it is on our list. That's something we're working on, but that will come.
That's good. I mean, this is really important because we have, we often interact with our community through the tech nets, but there's many other eyes on what we're doing, and I don't think it's always fully understood. We're kind of seen as these techies going in and doing stuff, but it's really about showing where we're going. This is it's building this repository of authoritative data that we can then use to provide all kinds of different services from this common data environment, and then go on ultimately building the digital twin. That's still a few years out, but we're laying the foundations of that. And I think it's not always kind of seen in the day-to-day, where we're really going with this. We get all stuck in our individual technology, and then doing this, we lose the bigger picture. That's really what we're trying to get across here.
Yeah, and Paul, I don't know if you have anything to really comment on the digital twin itself, but this was just a section that we implemented and wanted to put in some really significant points that are punchy, relevant, and help educate.
Okay.
So the learn page, that is what we've titled as our mission, which is right here. We did do another section, which is more organization based. This one is, again, still a work in progress, but it's close to being there. We're talking about what we're doing to go out and change things. So how we're making that happen. And well, on the homepage, we did have a partnership section that's at the bottom. Those two partners, MCE and DBGC, are not the only people or the only organizations that have any relationship to Digital Built D&D. So what we're doing here is we're able to show not just those couple ones that are significant, but a lot of the other people who are engaging with as well. And each one of these is a link to their website as well. So that's scrolling, and that goes through roughly 15 or 20 organizations that we're not necessarily partnered with, but obviously have an engaging dialogue with or are working together with on some level.
So I have a question on this, Adam.
Yeah, Mike.
Is this all JavaScript that makes that scroll?
That is a good question that I don't have an answer for, but I can get one for you.
Yeah, so just to implement on the D&D side, there are some things that we can't do, but JavaScript is not a problem.
JavaScript is okay. Okay.
Yeah, JavaScript, jQuery, whatever flavor of JavaScript we can implement.
Okay, fantastic. I will have an answer for you today. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. I'm glad you brought that up. The next section here is there's two sections. One is some writing. When I send out the link, this will be populated. So if you want to take a look into what's actually written in there, and if you do have any feedback, we're very welcome to have that. So you are welcome to take the time and do that. And then the last real element is a timeline, which is the goal of this is to really show not just what's happened over the past about 20 years, but also what are the next major milestones. So is it building the digital twin or whatever that might be. So we're starting back in 2000, and we framed a lot of things. We're obviously summarizing a lot of 12 years here. But really going through and trying to give somebody that has a limited knowledge of DBD&D to get up to speed in terms of what's gone on in the past 2 decades. We're working on the content for the rest of that, just in terms of 2016 to current, and then current to the next few years out. But the thinking is just providing that in a timeline sort of way. So those are those 2 pages. Any comments or anything like that on the Learn page? Mike, thank you very much for the question. I'm glad you asked. That's awesome. Anything else from anyone?
I think Adam as well, when you ask the question of your people,
yep.
A lot of these JavaScript APIs are brought in through a web link, whereas in D&D we can't really do that. We have to actually download the JavaScript API and put it into the folder structure.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anything that's linked to the outside, we would prefer to have the link internal and have the JavaScript APIs right in the folder structure under scripts or something of that nature.
Yeah, you
I'll
wouldn't be able to call to libraries installed outside on the internet or anything like that. Everything would have to be, sitting local, basically.
Okay.
Or local on the server.
Yeah, no problem. Like I'll get some answers for that, and we might have to do some adjusting, and that's totally fine if we do. So no problem.
Okay.
Okay. So like I said, I will do some more populating of this. We've got a bit more work to do just until that's finalized, but I will send that out. And if anyone wants to give me feedback or directly or anything like that, that's totally fine with me. Happy to take on the work. So all good there. The rest of what we wanted to do for the meeting and really why we wanted to have this group getting together in this virtual room was to give feedback and help us understand the goals for the apps and services page and the data management page. So what belongs on there, what doesn't belong on there, and what we should do. So there are there's content here. This has not changed for the past 2 months because we have been working on the Learn page, on the home page, on different things. And since we did change what the Learn page was and the content on it and the overall thinking and ethos of it, the apps and services and data management page can very much be a bit different. So I'd like to very much open up the floor for everyone here so that people can give their thinking of for these pages of, do we have this right? I don't think we do, by the way. And what do we put under here? What do we change? And how do we have it resonate with the people that are going to be clicking on these tabs? We did change the names of them, but that's really what we're looking to do here. So comments, feedback, etc. It's gonna be a long 40 minutes. Yes.
Can you click on the data management so I can see what you have?
I can. Yes.
Yeah. Can you scroll to the bottom? I just want to see whether I mean this has to do with the fundamental question of like the two buckets of applications, right? There's applications that actively manage D&D data, and then there's applications that purely are information service based. So John and Paul, is that what you guys are thinking in terms of the apps and services versus data management? Which would mean Archibus would be under data management, not under apps and services?
It's an interesting point. I really saw, I see Archibus more as an information service. This is something that, people outside of our group are going to be using and accessing. There is a data management portion of that, but typically that's changing the spatial data, all that. You're not doing that in Archibus. That's in the data registries. So I see in the specific case of Archibus, I see that as an information service. But the broader picture, yeah, the things that are truly data management used by a very small part of the community, we would have that in there. The broader information services that the people will be using to get answers to kind of day-to-day questions, I would see that as part of the apps and services. So, not sure if that made it clear.
No. It's okay. Because it's some things like Archibus probably will be, the idea is that 80% of it would be information services and then 20% would be the data management part. So yeah, it seems like that you're saying that basically data management really relates to the registries specifically.
That's really where we're kind of doing that. We're really building those tools to support that function. And again, these are tools that are going to be very high value for a small number of people whose job is really to do that. But in terms of the broader scope of people out there who are going to be pulling information, they're going to be looking for tools, apps, web services, whatever, and that's really going to be. I see that under the apps and services.
I think the intent, John, is to remove any ambiguity. What we have here is just kind of a rehash of what we had before underneath this tab. I can't remember what we called it before.
It's at the bottom. So I think it was a find data. Anyway,
Yeah.
Regardless, I think, yeah.
So the intent here, in my opinion, is to describe what the role of the enterprise like data management is from a spatial perspective, and talk about it and give definition to it, so people coming to the site understand the function that's being done here. I disagree that Archibus, in my opinion, is not data management tool. It's a service that we purposely built modules of Archibus, and we're pushing out space management, area measurement, and those are modules they're supporting. We've got them set up with pulling data from our centralized environment. So it would be a published service that we provide and provide support around. But as you know, the built-in enterprise level spatial data management that goes on behind the scenes is going to be done through the registry, through specialized people. Yes, they might be using Archibus, but it's specialized place that they're going to go in as one who can impact that data and manage it, or a select group. Whereas I'm hoping to get the apps and services part to be a wide open, the published services, the ad hoc tools that we're going to provide, plus maybe a portal to go in and ask questions, interact with our team. That's what I was hoping to get to. And I don't know if that is a clearer apparent on this.
For apps and services you're talking about, John?
Yeah, like apps and services make it like, I don't find it's a drawing in enough, but like obviously this is just a rehash of what we had before. But to put down like the map viewer, I'd love to have that name, that app contest, to kind of rename the map viewer to something that we can identify with. Archibus should be planted here with what we're doing with it. And I think we have for example, Peter has worked hard to develop an intake tool for asbestos tracking. Like stuff that we can publish full-time, services that we're providing to across the DWAN, anybody using it, and then some of the more app like unique things that we're doing, and then also have a place to go in and get direct support from someone.
Okay. So in your eyes, how many apps or services do you feel like there are? A dozen? 50?
That's up for this group to sort of define that. Like right now, the map viewers kind of publish Archibus as there as like the main anchors. VFA is out there. We should be talking about it here, because we do have a supporting role with it, and describe how it's used. So because what we're trying to do is come up with a one of the stated objectives in our Learn page is kind of like setting a stage to go, a common data environment and building towards building the digital twin. And I think those are really key aspects of what we have to start building out in our approach with tools and whatnot. What tools you need along the way to get there. These are the ones we have right now, and give a common, grounding to everybody within the department who need these tools, to not go off and create another one. Here, you can plug into this data-rich environment, and then whatever you need, we can provide to you and provide it through here.
Yeah.
Okay. So
one example of kind of web services that we're publishing right now, it's that there is actually the spatial data warehouse. We provide the geospatial data in the form of web service that can be consumed by anyone using ArcGIS or a spatial tool on the DWAN, and it's every time you get a request, you have to ping Ken to get the doc right. But this is where we can direct people. This is how you get that raw data, and that's being used for all kinds of different purposes. There's the Quebec area just put up a COVID awareness portal for the Quebec region on their ArcGIS portal on the DWAN, and they're pulling service on that. That's fine. That's legit. It's the current data that they're getting. So it's an example of even just at the very data level what we're doing. There's other things like the data registries. Yeah, that is true data management, but there are going to be even services we need out of that. Our management has been asking for a portal where they can go see, how is the data load progressing for Archibus.
But I think, Paul,
They're not going to want to.
Don't confuse
right
that
in.
part though. I think you're blending two things there. I think like to me, the message I'm getting from that is, yeah, I think the data management piece, you got to have a track the maturity of it.
Yeah.
And maybe in our dialogue, and that's so that maybe a discussion point as well. And I'm going way off the track, and I didn't really want to talk at all in this meeting.
Didn't even know you're here.
Yeah.
So quiet.
Till now, boom.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. I thanks for that question too, John. I was like one thing I think we struggle with, and I heard it strongly through RP Ops channel, is that they don't know what they're missing, and then through senior management they don't know what we're missing, and
Yeah.
I think it'd be really interesting to build out, maybe a model of what we're striving to get to. Like, if we can brainstorm and maybe come to common understanding before we publish our page what we're looking for in terms of a digital twin. And then look at, in terms of data management, this is where we want to be in 5 years. And these are the couple stages we have built out right now. We've got a general floor plan. We have a space measurement, area measurement. We have a general site plan. We have a linear asset management type data load that we're looking at. If we can track the maturity on those and come up with a dashboarding tool in that area, when you go to data management, it'll give you a really easy dashboard. Well, I'm not saying easy because it's going to take some heavy lifting from Ken and the rest of the team to develop something, but an easy to hands-on portal to understand by location how mature our data is, how ready are we to hit that, to where we want to go, and use it as a senior management reporting tool. Like, I'd love to see stuff like that built into this.
I think for apps and services, and if you see it differently, then please let me know. But it seems like we've got a bunch of bright minds in this room here. I think what could be interesting is if I just do up a Google Sheet or something comparable and share it with everyone and just put in the apps and services that you think belong here, and we can assemble that and really use that or take that as a learning opportunity and be able to put that in. Is that something that would be realistic and actually helpful and useful?
I think that that's worked fairly well with the learn page, so we could use that to capture exactly what should be in there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I know everyone's was busy and everything, and the goal is not to overload people, but if it's if you can take a 5 or 10 minute sort of thing, that I think that could be really interesting, because I'd imagine that some people will think of the things that others don't. So that would be great, just in terms of what we actually put on this page in terms of what the apps are. So that would be great. And of course, feel free to put in other comments there. So I can absolutely do that for sure. And then that way we can have a good understanding of what belongs here and also what doesn't. So that can be great as well. I'm happy to assemble that.
Can we?
Yeah.
And I know it's Paul's answering that. I'd love to hear from those on the line, their thoughts on doing it that way.
Okay, is that unrealistic for people to be able to take a bit of time and do that?
So we're just talking about literally taking all the existing services, or are we talking about potential services? What are we talking about here? Because we can certainly take existing services. Ken McComas has a long list of RPSTW services that we could plop down into the apps and services. My earlier question had to do with, well, the registries are applications as well. So which bucket do they belong into? That's why I kind of, we asked the question of information management versus data management, or information services versus data management. So
they're not considered information services, John. That's the answer I was trying to give you.
So the registry, so data management is basically synonymous with registries. Everything else is apps and services.
Yeah. Enterprise data management is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ken McComas has a list. Would that be safe to say, Ken? You could just get a list of all the existing services and applications?
Yeah, it all depends. Like, mine's very granular, not the level that you want on this kind of website. Like, I mean, they kind of guess need to be rolled up into groups, into categories. Not, you don't want individual map services and individual endpoints to the APIs and things, right? So
yeah, that would, I don't think you'd have, the individual endpoints. I don't think you get here. This is, but yeah, it's the groupings and overall what's happening.
So I kind of have some of this stuff. I mean, this is most, at the high level, this is almost what you've got here. There are some others. I can write them like,
Ken,
I guess
question for you.
We've got map service, like we've got another category. I guess we could say map services, and we've got API. But I don't know how specific we want to get, or what exactly we're trying to obtain with.
So, and thank you, Ken. That's great. A couple questions and a couple comments as well. This is a really hard activity to do when we have nothing on paper. So I think even if Ken, you're able to share or populate or just help us with that list, even if it's incredibly granular, at least it gives us something to say yes or no to, right? It just gives us that starting point. So I think that could be really helpful. And I did want to ask, you're saying it gets quite granular and there's also different categories. How many are we talking about in a ballpark?
Of services?
Yeah.
If we went at the fine granular, we're probably looking at a few hundred.
Okay.
I'd say.
Okay.
But if you roll them up, not that many. Like you could probably do map services and maybe API or something like that. I'm not too sure. I don't know if you want to, like, we could break the map surfaces down into like groupings, like building related ones and land related surfaces. I don't know.
Okay.
Something along those lines. I don't.
But would it be interesting if we put the API and that kind of in a category almost at the bottom about if you see something you want or to interact with us and tell and make them aware of the existence of tools for to develop against the API or pull against the API or engage us to do something unique for them instead of just kind of putting it there. Like I just don't know.
Yeah, because the API is not going to be useful for anyone but the top 99 point. Like very few people will use the API.
Yeah, the point.
It's not really designed for this website. It's too computer geeky, right? So the map surfaces are a lot more because that we could write a how-to guide, like Paul was talking about it before. We could write a how-to guide on how a general user could hook into our map surfaces via ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro or something along those lines and can consume them. So we could do that. That would make a lot of sense, I would think. So that would be one more section for sure.
And as a group, do we feel in general that having groupings is a helpful thing, or does that make it complex for the sake of being complex?
I think groupings will allow us to access the information and the services in a hierarchy way. So we can align what the services, for example, that the building group can offer to the bases or to the people that are looking for information on how to migrate their data, capture new data, or migrate that information into the RPSDW repository. If I understand correctly, that's what you are looking to fill in this tab.
I think we almost need to go with a hierarchical approach where you have a tier of like the published apps that are pretty structured, and then another tier of other ones that are not so complex, like more like applications such as a map viewer and Archibus, and then a tier of them that are just small, more app, like they're single purpose or other, then you can organize them within those buckets, I think.
We don't want to put in things here like the Armories project and the like the dashboards for the managers and that kind of stuff, though. That doesn't really belong here, I'm assuming. Like, I don't know.
Well, maybe under a list of reports and services, it might be useful.
I think it
Could
does
be,
belong here, actually.
Okay.
Maybe
This
one
is
way
the
we do it, and open. I mean, this is just an idea. Is we have, for lack of better words, our greatest hits, so to speak, at the top, of those 5 ones or so that are widely used and very popular, and then we have a bunch of the other ones sort of truncated or in some searchable manner or something like that. So the ones that are really popular shine and they're at the top, and if you want to have ones that are seldom used or more complex or for computer geeks or whatever it might be, they're there, but it's not at the top of the page. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll start putting together a list then, and I can send it to people, and people can like start deleting stuff or adding stuff. From it. And I'll try to group them. I'm not going to go too granular. I'll try to group them. And yeah, we'll see.
Ken, that'd be a wonderful help, and that would give us a bunch of momentum just to get things rolling. I think that would be really great. John, you mentioned something earlier, which I thought was interesting, which was I'm going to call it a bit of like an ask us or contact us, connect with us, whatever you want to call it. But what was your thinking behind that? Or maybe it was Paul, John or Paul.
I'm on mute. Sorry, I'm talking to
Oh, yeah.
answering you, Adam.
Yeah, okay.
It was a really good answer too.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
I'd love to be able to put a connect with us kind of point where they can come in and be teased by what we have here, and understand there's a face and there's some expertise behind. If you don't see it, we can do something for you, knowing that we can develop around the API. If they're not part of that 0.01%. Or if there's something missing, like we get calls all the time to support a certain program or to support something, and for them to even get here and understand, like it'd be really cool if we can list some of the reports that actually go, like the stuff we were doing, a placemat for the Army. It never hit fruition, but it'd be cool if we can come up with maybe an area where there's canned stuff we published from our environment. That's report. Click on it. You can actually have access to it. And I don't know if that's part of the mix that Ken's going to provide to us. We'll see. But I think there's other stuff we've been asked to do over the years as well. So it would be that one general stop. Or if there's stuff in development too, we can maybe even have a few of those things just to give people awareness that we're doing something in this area.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting way to do it. If everyone's sort of on board with that, I'm happy to investigate what that could look like, and we can do that for something. Yeah.
So the one piece that I don't know, and I'm asking this to the group on the call. We do a lot of support for major capital projects, and a lot of projects go out day to day. And there's always little things that are happening. And Paul Ortiz, he's involved with many projects, and he's joined us today. I forgot to invite him last time. But we are actually developing more of a core hub of a service to support these major capital projects. And part of the development piece that we've done in the front end of the web page is to look at, a common data environment, be more visible, and make it more clear if you're a project manager or if you're involved in a project delivery. There's something here for you, and I don't see it kind of in the mix of what we have right now. So what do we do to put that kind of there for those people who are running a project somewhere from ID stage, maybe right through any phase of development on a project? I think we need to draw them into somewhere. Does it go here, or does it go maybe on its own tab on its altogether? I'm open for any ideas on this, but we really have to start linking into support for the major capital project world. And minor capital too.
It'd just be a projects tab in general.
Would it be enough? That's the part I'm a little confused on, John. Like, I think, yeah, maybe just a tab, but maybe it's another whole, maybe it's one of these squares. I'm totally open to opening a world that people can connect with this that aren't looking at, the map viewer itself or the, or QVFA. They're looking to run a major capital project and get support during some phases of its development.
Yeah, I
That
think
could
like
go
if you had a
into
tab-
that.
So go ahead,
Yeah,
Steve.
I was going to say that could go into the grouping of the apps and services on that page to group them by project stage, or even just a general project grouping. If you are working on a capital project, these are the apps and services that relate to that. These are what you can use for that. And that could be part of that hierarchical structure as well. If you have, say, a group within just projects in general, and then ID stage, development stage, closeout, you could have apps and services relating to each of those stages as well.
I think somebody else was fighting for mic time. Don't be shy.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. The only thing I
Yeah.
would say is that if as from the communication point of view, that major capital or minor capital project support, if you get people from that ilk coming to this page, some of this stuff might not intuitively seem relevant to them, but if they see a tab that says, major capital project support or something where it sticks out to them, and then it branches into it, and it might, it doesn't even need to be a tab. It could be hierarchical in this apps and services, but I think, it's just ensuring that whoever visits the page doesn't need to go too far deep.
Yeah,
because that's a huge segment of, right? That's a huge, to me, I almost
Yeah.
divide it into kind of like in the life cycle aspect or asset management cycle kind of things. It's projects, and then it's like operation maintenance. Fundamentally, there's more to it obviously than that, but so yeah, I kind of feel like just something to consider is whether it belongs as something that's top of mind, or maybe it's kind of under one of these tabs.
What do you think if we go to the home page, John, or if you can just click on home, Adam?
I just dumped into the chat channel all the
Oh, wow.
major groupings.
I saw that, Ken. That's actually a pretty good list. I think you've really brought it to the high level there, and some foundation for what we can build here.
Amazing.
If you just,
thank you. I'm going to copy and paste that somewhere else so we have it. But yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
If you just scroll down, I think if you look at digitize your workflow, I think this is a one. If you just click on
Give me a second.
that one, maybe go back up again.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's the one, digitize your workflow. That's the one. If we click on this is really the anchor point for going into the project world.
I mean that links to the learn page as it stands currently.
Does it? Okay, so there's one that we did if you go back again, there's one that had kind of an anchor for running our looking at the digitizing this one here.
Is it this one? Yeah.
Yeah. So if we rename this, Paul, Lord T, and John Olton, and then have an anchor point for it on the apps and services. So you see it on the main page. We talk about project delivery and supporting it, and then make it clear that we're implementing a common data environment for them.
Yeah, I can see that working.
Because that would draw them into, hey, there's something here for us at the very high level, and they can easily quickly go. That'll lead them into the under the apps and services, maybe I think back to that other box there, Adam, the apps and services tab.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, if we can connect one in there, I don't know what we call it, but for the capital project side of things, that would be like just almost just like if you have one of the main boxes, and this is kind of what I was thinking earlier. If we had one of the main boxes, they would give you a little bit more because there's something more substantial about what we're offering there. And if it's in terms of capital project delivery, then you click on that page, it brings you into one whole page with all the kind of the support offerings we have for the capital project side.
Yeah. We can certainly do that. Go ahead. Somebody else was going to say something.
No, it's just in the last meeting that I don't believe, I think the last meeting I was in was after you, me and you hosted Adam with part of this group, and
Yep.
they showed that kind of project delivery, more or less kind of all the project cycles or phases, and that concept that you had in that other page, which said learn more about I think it was capital project. What is it? Project delivery tool.
Yeah, here,
this
I'll
one.
open it just briefly. I don't want to complicate things, but it's this tool ultimately. So
It's a good way. I mean, this is a good way to not only I don't know if this was the intent, John, but was part of the intent was to have to use basically D&D's project cycle, lay it out here, and then almost you could interactively roll over parts or aspects of the project steps or phases and learn what applications could be useful.
Yeah, I do know what you mean, John. Yes, but I think we've had to reposition like a little bit around if it's the common data environment is like why is it with us? I guess kind of the question I keep on having to ask myself, why are we involved? And the one thing that hooks us right off the bat is we're supporting all phases of the development. It's not very clear that we're doing that. The skill set is also the same skill set as those who are creating and maintaining some of the spatial services we're doing. Yeah. Bring it in and then look at that common data environment, populate the common data environment both on the DWAN side, on the high side CSNI. So it's an internal thing that all phases of development of project, when you start your project, you're going to call Paul Ortiz or someone in that shop, and you're going to have a common data environment created, and you're going to be running your project in this environment for the managing the information that's required from a spatial perspective. And it gives us the ability then to bring that back in at close out of the project. And so all the services that we have listed in the timeline, really, those are just things that might, like right now, that we know are candidates to go more digital than they are. Because currently they're done like in a really haphazard way. And then on top of that, there's an external part of it as well that, it's even making it more hairy. And our biggest challenge as we speak is that as we go more and more digital, a lot of these services are cloud services that are doing more and more advanced stuff in the cloud. There's model based, using digital twin type technology that you really collaborate around, that we don't really engage with, but we want to be a benefactor of. So anyways, I'm going way deep on that. But I say I'll bring us to that next step into that digital. We don't have it here anywhere right now.
Kind of similar to the digital plan of works kind of concept that the UK was
yeah, just as simple. It is that concept, but it's making it. It's following ISO 19650. That concept. Mm-hmm. And then looking at how do we get the right common data environment that's secure, with all the right information in it, with the right collaborators around it, and then put that into, someone has to manage that. It's not going to manage itself. And I think that's been the missing piece within national defense and other government departments, is that we all think that, we're just going to pass it out to the private sector and they're going to run it for us. Well, no, someone has to take the bull by the horns and actually organize it so we get the results right through the whole the process, the whole life cycle. And I think that's our role, and that's what I've been trying to communicate, but I've been doing a really shitty job of it. And I know I've kind of sucked all the air out of this meeting, so.
No, it's okay.
No, I just, there's definitely different approaches. I'm just looking at it from a, if I was someone from on the D&D side in terms of projects, they come to this site and instinctively they want to know, why am I going here? What of use is this to me? So from a communications piece, I'm just, it'd be nice to have something that draws them instinctively to like, oh, here's something I can look into and how does this benefit me? I like the idea of like the, however way you want to leverage it, whether it's terms of leveraging it to develop the common data environment, or leveraging it as just hey, if you're in the project identification stage and you're needing to do a space program, You know, you might want to be familiar with the fact that we have Archibus that might tell you, you know, a little bit about existing space inventories at the base you're working on, or something like that. More of an information kind of gathering tool.
It's
Yeah.
what we're trying to, sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I completely agree with that. I mean, working with a lot of these project people, the simpler you can make accessing the tools and understanding what tool serves what purpose, the better. If you have more than a couple of steps to get to any of these tools,
They won't be used.
They won't be used. Plain and
Okay,
simple.
so I have a question for John and Paul, but not John Hale and not.
This is super
anyway,
confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's confusing
DCC
here.
John Paul.
Holton. Yeah, I get it.
JP1, JP2.
Yeah, we need better naming systems here. So it's almost like people need last names. So no, my question is, I think you both have very good points. And I have a question for you, which is, what are those 5 or so reasons that people would be using these tools? I mean, we've identified, the one of them is perhaps, major capital projects, right, is one of them. Like, what are those big things that people will come here for, so that we can start to build it out so that it's helpful for those people?
I think, sorry.
Access to information will be a key one. So things like being able to, like the map viewer and the historical documents, when a project is in the ID stage and the development stage especially, are huge things, because they're looking at sites, they're looking at everything that's going on around them. They're looking to find out what is the condition of a building and all that sort of stuff. So if they have easy access to that sort of information, they're definitely going to want to use these tools over, say, using the existing tools that are out there, or the existing lines going through RPOps and all of that. So that would be a key point, I would think.
Yeah, I think I think there's 2 elements where obviously we're looking to up capability to better serve major and minor capital projects through a platform. But just as a pure communication piece, I guess, where we're at now, it would be very beneficial in the short term to perhaps communicate succinctly and easily why people who are delivering major and minor capital projects for D&D would care about any of these services, and what are they, and to what part. Everyone specializes in different parts of the project phase. So what applications or what services are potentially relevant to the work they're doing.
So we break it into project phases is more what you're saying, John?
Well, you've already kind of done that with some of the diagram, maybe for a different purpose, but it's a good fundamental. People know when they're delivering projects where they fall within the project cycle. So if they knew, hey, if I'm more into, in the project identification side of things, that they, here's some existing applications that would be beneficial for delivering this, or developing a statement of requirements or whatever.
And once you get into development, here's the common data environment that you can use to run the project and see this through. Once you get to closeout, here are the standards that we're looking for GFP and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I agree with Johnny. Relating the tools to the phases would definitely be helpful in helping them understand why this is going to be a benefit to them. If they can see right from the get-go, oh, at this stage, I've got this tool that takes over the job of these other 3 tools that I've been using. At this stage, I've got these 2 tools. All of that would play into selling this on for them.
So, okay, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. You're good.
Oh, good.
Just ignoring. No.
No, I tend to mute and then talk. Not the other way
You're
around.
good.
I like what I hear there, guys. I think we've already got the stages built into that tool. It's already there. I think we got to rename it. I think we got to name it interactive, like they say, common data environment, with all the stages built in as the interactive tool. But I think we have to, I don't have to really sell too much, because we're kind of already nested into the development of these things, these tools, and it's just waiting to have them at a maturity level to go communicate their active, they exist. And I agree full-heartedly. I love what you guys are saying about, like, if you send them to our site now, they're going to look at what we have and go wonder, what the heck do we do with this stuff? It's only so useful. But if you can go to a site that's specific to the project side of things, that gives them the ability to understand what they're looking for at each one of those stages, and then purpose build, support to give them, to make them understand what it is, what a common data environment is that we're going to put in place, that we're going to put someone in charge of helping them get through this and facilitate, right through ID, right through all stages. It gives you that way into this site. In terms of engaging and communicating, I plan on going to getting this out large to the DCPD group and the project group through their PD sessions when we're ready. Like, we have to be mature enough to get there and talk about it, and wherever I can communicate this, we will. But I love, like, so I think I got a handle a little bit on the next step to go with this.
Yeah, certainly some direction. I think thank you, both John and Paul right there. That's been, I think, really helpful for me anyway, and I hope for the group as well. And Ken, with the list that you've put in there, and as well we'll continue to sort of build, I think that as a starting point is really helpful. And I know today we were sort of mentioning apps and services and data management, and we've just sort of been chatting about apps and services. That's totally fine. The goal of these is to drive things forward and not just waste people's time. So I think we have a lot of work to do just on our side of taking what everyone's been saying here and starting to implement and get things rolling. And certainly happy to do that. And like I said, I can sort of share some stuff with the group. I think that would be really helpful. John Hale, any sort of final things there? I know we're sort of at the end of our allotted time. But
yeah, sorry. I'm just wondering, like, that diagram is really, I love the structure and the look of it. I think it'll be useful. I'm wondering, looking at apps and services on the
sorry, Larry. Oh, you want? Yeah, I can go there.
Yeah,
sorry.
if you go back to apps and services again, I'm wondering, just to the group, the project delivery piece will be very defined with, like, a process mapping against how to do what we're doing and what we're providing for them, and also giving it access to go into the tools that are associated to it. Do we take the same lens and look at maybe, do we take the list that Ken provided in the chat window and look at, organizing it? I think it was Leonardo that said that earlier about, discipline based, like.
Oh, definitely, I agree.
Or go by activity based, like the VFA. Instead of calling it VFA, we're calling it capital asset planning, and provide, like, almost like here's the tool, but here's what you need to know about what the tool is doing, and provide that kind of background to it. Same thing in the map viewer. The map viewer, I don't know what it is. It's an open access point that you just kind of discover, right? Maybe it doesn't need one.
Well, I think one of the things we've talked about with the map viewer is really kind of trying to create kind of almost kind of simplified views of it. I mean, when we were, John, we were talking to Chad Whitloff, who was mentioning how people like CJOC and that we're looking at the map viewer and says there's too much there. It's really maybe trying to break it up into concentrated services depending on what people need. So anyway, something for the future, I guess. But
yeah, the map viewer is kind of everything for everyone. So, like, if you go into the map viewer, you could be searching up land information, wanting to know where our boundaries are, or you could do a query like, I want to know the buildings, like, especially when we get Archibus integrated, you'll go into the map viewer and you go, I want to know buildings that have 10 free vacancies. And you could go into the map viewer and find all those buildings that have 10 free vacancies. Or you could go, I want to do a dig permit, and you go into the map viewer and you'll find your dig permit. So it's like, it answers tons of questions for different people, but it's like a very broad thing as to what it is.
I agree, Ken. But I think maybe that it's on another echelon, right? It's almost like your discovery portal, right? Find out what you need on the fly about the real property portal that we have, real property that we have, but then you can have this defined apps that go in and do specific things with the same data set. And
maybe, John, maybe one of the ideas is, you can almost put, you can have apps and services as just the raw apps and services, but instead of data management, maybe you have activity-based support or something, and then it's a different way to go through some of our services is through an activity-based description, like major capital project support, or portfolio planning, or data management, or you know what I'm saying?
I do, but I think one of our just for the group, like when we go to higher level discussions with like senior management at the ADM level, none of them clue into that. Hey, there's data management is an important function that we do. They all look at, well, I wanted Archibus. Where is it? I wanted Archibus like last year. Like I wanted to go in this building to see it in Archibus. They don't know what Archibus actually does. They don't know that you have to go manage a whole pile of enterprise data to go do something in Archibus. And I think that's what I'm trying to segregate that piece out and make it like a clear delineation, even on our webpage, like a painfully clear that data management is a core critical function that we have to do. And it's got a wall around it. Like that's what I'm trying to establish there. So I'm not too sure. Like I want to bend on that. Like if you guys think that's wrong, let me know. But
I think we do need that data management. Yeah, like you said, that is key. That's something that just isn't understood. People go right to the end product, thinking that's it.
Yeah, we've got the basics of it done, and then they're on to the nth degree, like this really elaborate. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. There needs to be emphasis on data management more than I definitely believe in that. It's more we're just kind of touching on this concept of, the map viewer is just an all-purpose app, and some of these apps are just like, here's a link to the app, but maybe there's a different way to go through things that's more of an activity-based way. So like you can add a tab where if it's an activity-based support that goes in, instead of listing apps lists the name of the apps, and activity-based services goes into things like, major capital project support, portfolio planning support, reporting,
John, to cut you off and to say also kind of what you're saying as well. One thing we did on the Learn page, just at the top, is we did sort of divide it into two different categories pages within it. So one thing that we could do is, riffing off your idea, is still within the apps and services page have something that says, well, I mean, more complex than this, but what are you doing, and you can click there and you can kind of get at it from that direction, which I think fulfills what you're mentioning, and could be useful for the right people, whether it's major projects or whatever that might be. And that way we still keep that data management as well, because that's an important piece. But I think what you're saying is relevant too.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not what you're saying, then cut me off.
Sounds like a good solution to me. It's in your face, and it does segregate things according to what people want to do, rather than go through a list of applications.
Go both. I think that's the idea, is that you can split apps and services into literally just a portal or list of apps, but then you can also look at it through an activity-based process where, so you can see, if you're doing project support, major capital project support, you can do that. If you're doing more portfolio planning, if you're doing more reporting or whatever, accommodation management. So people are going through it through, they know what their role is and what kind of activities they do. So that's another way to go into it. If they didn't know what Archibus was, but they're an accommodations manager and they need to manage, Archibus accommodations data using Archibus, instinctively they can go and say, hey, I'm in accommodations management, click on that, and it would have some information or tell them more instinctively why Archibus is useful for accommodation management, that kind of process.
So you're saying the same, like the apps would be published on one of the tabs and the services would be like higher, like by activity on the second tab, and it could be both on both tabs, like both pages. Is that what you're saying?
It's just two different ways to go through the services. One through just like
I love that idea,
and one through more like, hey,
different approach.
That's brilliant. Whose idea was that?
That was Adam's.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a group. We're all a group. Same team. I think, because that way, if you know what you want and you just say, no, I want map stuff, and you go there, then great, you can do that. But if you want a more guided approach and you don't want to have to click through 1,000 folders, which we ultimately want to avoid, then you could do that too. So we're trying to cater to all the users, or we're not trying to be everything to everyone, but if we can catch more people in that net, then I think that's helpful.
And what I like about it, Adam, as well, is it doesn't take a lot of real estate. It's just a small,
Yeah, we've got to
almost
make
like
it
a
clear enough,
breadcrumb.
but yeah, it's not overwhelming.
And it's like a breadcrumb, basically, right?
Yep, you got it. Okay.
If
Well,
you
why
go
don't we
back to
do
that page there where you showed the two pieces. So I mean that's very small, and for the amount of space it takes, it certainly would be helpful, I think, for people who have a more pragmatic approach.
Is it obvious enough though?
I think we could do a better job.
Yeah, I think
that.
actually it would maybe be ideal to put that underneath the header on apps and services, so
Yeah,
as
yeah.
sort of a filter. So
Yeah.
you've got the project support filter, you've got the accommodations management filter, and then at the end you can have an all apps and services if somebody just wants to scroll through all of them and see all the options available.
Yeah, I think if we put some time into how we sort it, as we're sort of doing now, I think it could be really good. And if we don't, it could be real shit. I mean, not great, because it's just use. I mean, if it's folder upon folder upon folder, as everyone said, nobody's going to use it.
Mhm.
So yeah, we've got to be really smart about that. So we can start working on that on our end, and you know, with Mr. Hale and Mr. Churcher and stuff, and certainly start tweaking that and get it there. Yeah.
Is there anybody else we should be engaging, guys, for focus or for suggestions on this that we haven't already?
Probably, yeah. I could probably tons of all the other stakeholders.
Real
plan on using
specific.
this. Yeah. Like,
Everybody, yeah.
yeah, anybody.
300 people, 300 opinions.
Yeah, no, DCPD, obviously, if they're going to be a stakeholder, like just the obvious things, just anybody who you expect to be part of the usership group here, RP Ops, then yeah, I mean, it'd be helpful to have their opinion, but you might want to, how long further along the development you want to have before you start introducing those up to you?
I want to publish something next week or the week after.
I think with a lot of groups, they need to see. You can't just go in with something that's not developed. You need something tangible they can interact with. If it needs to be modified as a result of, then that's fine. But I think they need something tangible to start with.
We're looking at minimum viable product right now. Like
Precisely,
what can we publish right now, but where do we plan to go to? And I think if we can scope out what we'd like to do as this collective, like deeper connected group, and then publish the MVP type page and then look to develop the other stuff in concert with others. Or is that wrong? Crickets? Tell me I'm stupid. Like it's fine if I want to fail fast, not a year from now.
No, I think that might be a good way to field some feedback from some of the other parties. Would be to have something that they can actually look at and say, "Oh, I like this. I don't like this," rather than actually bringing them into these conversations. Because 300
These
people,
meetings,
300 opinions.
And these meetings are very hard because we're talking about things very conceptually with not much to show. And it's hard to get opinions on things that don't exist. So at least if we're showing something, it's like you said, there's a yes or a no, or it's easier to create dialogue around that. Okay. Anyone else have any final things? I know we've gone a bit over, but thank you for the people that have stuck on.
I'll email everyone after the meeting a list. I'll keep adding to this list that I put in the chat, but I'll add a bunch more and send it to everyone.
Amazing. That's great. Thank you.
The last parting thing I have, guys, is the standards page. That might be the next order up, and I guess it's going to a special group of us here that have John Olton, Paul Ortiz, Charlie, Leonardo, who are involved with the development, and also I shouldn't say Garrett as well, development of instructional guides and standards, and Peter Nielsen too. I should say. I keep on adding more here, but what does that page look like for resources for people who need to get the standard to do the work that they're doing for us? and look at how do we get the outside facing site build up. And I guess, Michelle, that's, a discussion we've had too. And John, like you're developing, you've got blessing to go a certain point, but we're still waiting to get that final push.
How do you envision that, John? Did you want, I mean, this is obviously like, would it just simply be a, like, I know you want to maintain some kind of consistency in terms of look and feel, in terms of digital D&D. Is there any expectations to, like, is it simply just going to be a link to anybody inside the environment? Doesn't need to link outside to it, obviously. So we're talking about now external suppliers, consultants looking to, engage with some of the same information. So what's...
So keep in mind, John, that we're doing something with PSBC. And we're doing something called Digital Build Government of Canada, and PSBC is doing something called Digital Build PSBC, or I don't know what they're calling it. And they're doing kind of a similar internal, this is our tool, how we organize ourselves approach, versus what we're doing is internal the DCC D&D that we're using it within our firewall, but we're trying to align the look and feel. And we're also in discussion with NRC. We're in discussion with a few others, and the Digital Built D&D sites, Digital Built Government Canada sites initiatives being blessed by FERPAC. FERPAC's a Federal Industry Real Property Advisory Committee. They're all over it. They think what we're doing, engaging and developing a common look and feel is super. Like, we haven't had this in this area. And they're interested to see where we go. And Treasury Board's also kind of backing that approach. So I think, the short answer would be yes, we want to look at exactly, I think we should follow suit, tailor a little bit to give the DCC flair, put the logo on there for DCC because it's DCC. But, I think we gotta aim to align ourselves and it'd be a worthy, I don't know who we have the discussion with around the table. Carl McQuillan did sit on the last FERPAC board. That was late February. There's a meeting on Wednesday, and I've kind of nudged the agenda a bit to make sure they discuss it a bit. But I think we need to have that blessing to go and have our, roll this out. Hey, Charlie's on. Hey, Charlie. Anyways, I'll stop talking. He snuck in there. Who's that guy?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Just
in there for a while.
Geoanalyst.
I've been in here for a while.
Yeah.
I saw the name. I didn't know who the hell is that.
Keeping quiet. But,
Stealth. So anyways, on that note, John, did I answer that right? Can we, please?
That's what I wanted you to say.
Please.
Amanda's, we can't hear you.
Well, all I have to say, John, is I guess we're going to have a meeting with with you and Paul and decide how we're going to do the public-facing site, right?
Yeah.
For standards.
Sooner the better. We'd love to. We're okay if it doesn't go that way, but we'd like it to go, look and feel, and we can, because obviously we're going to link to it. Like, we need people to link to that site. It's very important to have those tools that you guys have proposed are super critical. Having our published standards there are really, really important. Understanding that we want them to use the common data environment, that we're thinking digital twin, important.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I should find out this week. I'm hoping to have my permissions and be able to go forward on it this week. So we'll see.
Well, I won't belabor it anymore, guys. Any last words around the table? I'll shut up and mute.
Well, I'm good.
No words from Amanda. Her mic died.
Her Bluetooth died.
Yeah, right.
So yeah. Okay, well, thank you everyone for your time. I know it's precious and limited, so doing this is not always easy, but it's very much appreciated, and it really helps us shape things and hopefully make a product that's better for everyone. So I'll we'll be in touch and all that good stuff. And for anyone that needs a recording, I can pass that along, do anything we need, and we'll all make things work. And if anyone has anything after the fact or thoughts afterwards, please share. Happy to take those into consideration. All right. Enjoy the afternoon. Stay safe. Look at Sunbird.
Thanks.
Have a good one, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.